At the outset, I want to share with you that our best wishes to Dr. Manmohan Singh for his full and speedy recovery. He is still in hospital, but I'm told that he is stable and the progress is good. With that, let me read the opening statement. There are specific points, 5 specific points. I will read it and then we will take some questions. And both Shri Jairam and Shri Ajay Markan will join me in answering the questions, if necessary, in Hindi and in English. The Union government has finally acknowledged the problem of vaccine shortage and other deficiencies in the current vaccine policy. While we welcome the positive changes made to the policy, we are constrained to point out that the devil is in the details. The details show that the modified vaccine policy is, in crucial respects, regressive and inequitable. Here are the 5 specific points. 1. Under the modified vaccine policy, the states will bear the responsibility and cost of vaccinating the poorer sections who are below the age of 45 years and are neither healthcare workers nor frontline workers, as defined by the central government. The central government appears to have abdicated its responsibility towards the poor by excluding them from the central government's vaccination program. In a country where the median age is 28 years, to leave those who are below the age of 45 years out of a public-funded program is, to say the least, callous. The migrant workers who live and work in other states and are the lifeblood of the economy of our cities will be the worst affected by this directive. 2. By liberalizing the pricing of vaccine and by not fixing a price for states at the same rate as it is available to the union government, the government is paving the way to unhealthy price bidding and profiteering. States with limited resources will be at a considerable disadvantage. States that are already weighed down by shrinking GST revenues, lower tax devolution, reduced grants and aid, and increased borrowing would have to bear this additional burden. Meanwhile, nobody knows where the thousands of crores of rupees collected under PM CARES are being deployed. 3. The union government's vaccine policy refuses to grasp that the problem is not only of production, but also of financing, procurement, and distribution of the vaccines, and of coordination with the states. Ignoring the suggestion of Dr. Manmohan Singh in his letter to the Prime Minister, the modified vaccine policy does not provide funds for capital investment to the vaccine manufacturers to ramp up production. 4. Furthermore, the modified policy does not invoke the provisions in law for compulsory licensing to allow other domestic vaccine manufacturers to manufacture the approved vaccines and augment total supply. 5. While the modified policy allows for import of foreign-made approved vaccines, there is no clarity whether any foreign manufacturer has agreed to export its vaccine, and if so, whether adequate quantities have been promised to be supplied on an agreed schedule. It is also not clear if the central government will take the initiative to import foreign-made vaccines and distribute them among the states. In summary, under the modified vaccine policy, the union government is running away from taking responsibility, overburdens the states, encourages vaccine manufacturers to profiteer, and will worsen the inequality between states as well as between poor and rich Indians. Nowhere in the world has any government left its vaccination program to be determined by the vagaries of market forces, and for good reason. We hope that the 5 points made by us above, in a spirit of constructive cooperation at this time of grave national crisis, will be considered seriously by the central government.
Thank you, sir. I'll request Makanji to say that in Hindi, sir.
आप सब लोगों का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। मैं बहुत ही संक्षिप्त में जो चिदम्बरम जी ने जो अंग्रेजी में जो स्टेटमेंट दिया है, मैं बहुत ही संक्षिप्त में उसके कुछ मुख्य पॉइंट्स उसके मैं बोलना चाहूंगा। जो नई वैक्सीन पॉलिसी भारत सरकार कल लेकर के आई है, ये निर्मम, निष्ठुर, हृदय विहीन मोदी सरकार का एक और तोहफा और जीता जागता उदाहरण है। अगर हम इसको ध्यान से पढ़ें तो नई वैक्सीन पॉलिसी प्रतिगामी एवं न्याय विरोधी। हम लोगों ने 5 पॉइंट्स इसके अंदर से लिए हैं, जो कि हमें लगता है कि ये 5 पॉइंट्स हमारे देश के लिए ठीक नहीं है और ये हमारी एक तरीके से 5 मांगे हैं। सबसे पहला, 45 वर्ष से कम युवाओं को तो भगवान भरोसे ही छोड़ दिया गया। अपना पल्ला झाड़ करके केंद्र सरकार ने प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स या राज्य सरकारों के रहम करम पर इन 45 साल से कम युवाओं को छोड़ दिया है। और इसमें सबसे ज्यादा प्रभावी जो होंगे वो प्रवासी मजदूर, हमारी माइग्रेंट लेबर होगी और गरीब लोग होंगे। जो युवा है गरीब, सबसे ज्यादा इसके अंदर प्रभावित होंगे। इसके लिए केंद्र सरकार ने इसमें पॉइंट नंबर 3 के अंदर अपने लिखा है कि केंद्र सरकार के जितने भी सेंटर्स हैं वहां पर केवल 45 वर्ष से ऊपर के लोग या जो हेल्थ केयर वर्कर्स या जो दूसरे और उन्होंने अभी तक के जिन लोगों को लगाते आए हैं उन्हीं लोगों को केवल लगाएंगे, टीका लगाएंगे, और दूसरे लोगों को 45 वर्ष से कम केंद्र सरकार ने पूरी तरीके से अपना पल्ला झाड़ दिया है। तो उन लोगों को प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स के अंदर उनके मुंह मांगी रकम के ऊपर और राज्य सरकारों के रहम करम के ऊपर 45 वर्ष से कम युवाओं को पूरी तरीके से छोड़ दिया गया है। दूसरा बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट काम इसमें यह है, इसके अंदर करने की जरूरत है। दुख की बात यह है कि केंद्र सरकार ने इसकी कीमतें तय नहीं करी। इसकी कीमतें प्राइवेट उत्पादकों के हाथ में छोड़ दी है और उनके साथ में राज्य सरकारें जो नेगोशिएट करेंगी या प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल जो नेगोशिएट करेंगे उसको कर दिया है। तो राज्य सरकारों को के लिए वैक्सीनेशन की कीमत केंद्र सरकार ने तय नहीं करी। प्राइवेट उत्पादकों एवं प्रदाता के हाथों लूट एवं मुनाफाखोरी का यह लाइसेंस है। नई वैक्सीन पॉलिसी से प्राइवेट एवं राज्य सरकारों को भी केंद्र सरकार की कीमतों पर वैक्सीनेशन मिलनी चाहिए, ये हमारी मांग है। तो जो रेट पे केंद्र सरकार को मिल रही है और अभी भी 250 रुपए केंद्र सरकार के इंटरवेंशन के बाद में प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स के अंदर एक टीका की कीमत है, तो वही कंटिन्यू आगे किया जाना चाहिए। इसको आगे मार्केट फोर्सेस के ऊपर छोड़ा नहीं जाना चाहिए, ये हमारी मांग है। तीसरा बहुत महत्वपूर्ण मांग है कि वैक्सीन निर्माताओं को कैपिटल इन्वेस्टमेंट की जरूरत है ताकि उत्पादन बढ़ाया जा सके। आज जो सप्लाई क्रेडिट की घोषणा करी है इससे कोई फायदा नहीं होने वाला। पूंजीगत सहायता की आवश्यकता है ताकि इसके अंदर प्रोडक्शन ये बढ़ाया जा सके। कंपलसरी लाइसेंसिंग के लिए भी पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी ने अपने पत्र में लिखा था। जो कंपलसरी लाइसेंसिंग है उसके तहत जो हमारे जो फार्मा उद्योग हैं उनको और नए फार्मा उद्योगों को लाइसेंस दिया जा सकता है ताकि वो ये इन टीकाओं का निर्माण अपने फैक्ट्रीज में, अपने एस्टैब्लिशमेंट्स में कर सकें, ताकि ज्यादा तो कैसे केवल 2 या 3 फार्मा मैन्युफैक्चरर्स इसको कर पाएंगे। इसका केवल एक ही रास्ता है कंपलसरी लाइसेंसिंग का। इजराइल ने भी किया है इसके अंदर, जैसे डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी ने अपनी चिट्ठी के अंदर लिखा है, और हमारे समय में भी हम लोगों ने कैंसर के दवाइयों के लिए 2011 के अंदर हम लोगों ने भी 2012 में
to do that. Viniji,
Just read the name of the person who sent the question.
I don't have the name. Anyway, I'll come. There
Go to the second
raised
question.
hand. Sunil Prabhu has raised his hand. Sunil, please come in.
Thank you, Pranav. My question is to Mr. Chindambaram as well as to Mr. Jairam Ramesh. Yesterday the Finance Ministry explained to us the rationale behind why they have liberalized it so as to allow some amount of profit for vaccine manufacturers, especially in the other 50% and some impetus to go ahead. Are you opposed to that for vaccine manufacturers? Or what exactly is your? I can definitely understand that you have definitely misgivings about the poorest of the poor, but where has it stated that between 18 and 45, those poor people will not be denied in government hospitals?
On the contrary, the right question to ask is, where has it been stated that between 18 to 45, the central government will fund the free vaccination program? Once you leave it to the state governments, then either the state governments have to fund it or the state governments have to charge. Either way, the central government is abdicating its responsibility to fund the vaccination program and is leaving it to the states or to the beneficiary individual. So the question to ask is, where has it been stated that between 18 to 45, vaccinations administered in public hospitals, especially to the poor, will be funded by the central government under the National Vaccination Program? As regards your first question, we are not against any manufacturer making a reasonable profit. But imagine the situation. 50% is preempted by the central government. 50% is available for state governments and for private hospitals. They will bid, obviously. If 29 states and maybe say 20 other hospital chains start bidding, who will get the vaccines? The highest bidder will get the vaccines. What about states which lose out in the bidding? And if there are 3 or 4 states which emerge as the highest bidders, how will the manufacturer allocate the quantities among the 3 states? Where is the formula? Where is the transparency? Unhealthy bidding, when there are only 2 suppliers and say 29 or 50 demanders, will only lead to unhealthy bidding and profiteering. And many, many bidders will be left out. What about the small states which have no resources? How will they bid and get a vaccine? These are the questions you should put to the Finance Ministry when they clarify blandly that we want them to have some profit. Of course, they should have some profit. They will fix a price. Let them fix the price, taking note of the profit. And let the central government, as Ajay said and the statement says, let the central government fix the price, but at the same price, it should be available to the state governments.
Thank you, sir. I'll move to the next question. Siddharth from ANI.
सर नमस्कार सर, मेरा सवाल अजय माकन सर से है। सर आप लोग कह रहे हैं कि कई चीजें ऐसे पॉइंट्स आप लोगों ने रखे हैं कि जो कहीं ना कहीं एक कमी बता रहा है एक नई वैक्सीन पॉलिसी में। सवाल ऐसा उठता है कि क्या प्रधानमंत्री को ऐसे में अपोजिशन पार्टीज के साथ मीटिंग नहीं करनी चाहिए, क्योंकि प्रधानमंत्री ने अभी वायरोलॉजिस्ट के साथ मीटिंग करी है, डॉक्टर्स के साथ करी है, वैक्सीन के मैन्युफैक्चरिंग कंपनीज के साथ मीटिंग कर रहे हैं, अपोजिशन के साथ भी होनी चाहिए। और दूसरा कहीं ना कहीं ये भी लगता है कि जो स्टेट्स ऐसी हैं जिनकी पॉपुलेशन कम है, कई स्टेट्स ऐसी पॉपुलेशन ज्यादा, उनकी वैक्सीन को ज्यादा चाहिए होगी, तो एकदम से वो फंड्स कहाँ से लाएंगे? तो केंद्र और राज्य सरकारों के बीच में एक सामंजस्य बैठाने के लिए कोई टास्क फोर्स या कोई इस तरीके का बोर्ड का भी गठन होना चाहिए।
देखिए, जिस तरीके से केंद्र सरकार ने और प्रधानमंत्री जी ने पिछले दिनों में बिहेव किया है, मैं इस समय पे ये शब्द का इस्तेमाल इसलिए मैं कर रहा हूं क्योंकि डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी ने एक चिट्ठी प्रधानमंत्री जी को लिखा था और बहुत ही स्टेट्समैन लाइक वो चिट्ठी थी। और उस चिट्ठी के अंदर मैं नहीं समझता कि उस चिट्ठी के अंदर जिस तरीके से जवाब डॉक्टर हर्षवर्धन ने उस चिट्ठी में दिया है, तो आप ये समझ सकते हैं कि केंद्र सरकार की सोच कैसी है। तो वो लोग जो है दूसरों किसी से सलाह करना, और डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जैसा व्यक्ति जिसका 10 वर्ष का जिनका अनुभव प्रधानमंत्री का और जिनका इतना विश्वव्यापी अनुभव है, उन्होंने एक चिट्ठी लिखी जिसमें कहीं पर भी लेश मात्र पॉलिटिक्स की कहीं पे बात नहीं करी और स्टेट्समैन लाइक जो सुझाव जो कर सकते थे वैसी चिट्ठी लिखी, लेकिन उसका एक्नॉलेजमेंट तक के प्रधानमंत्री जी का नहीं आया, बल्कि उन्होंने अपने हेल्थ मिनिस्टर से उसको एक्नॉलेज कराया। तो आप सोच सकते हैं कि उनकी स्थिति क्या है। राहुल गांधी जी ने 8 अप्रैल को चिट्ठी लिखी और उसका भी कोई एक्नॉलेजमेंट, जो प्रिंसिपल ऑपोजिशन पार्टी के सबसे बड़े हमारे लीडर हैं, उनकी तरफ से भी कोई वापस जवाब। तो ऑल पार्टी मीटिंग की तो बात दूर, कम से कम हम लोगों की चिट्ठी को एक्नॉलेज करके उसको रिस्पेक्टफुली उसका जवाब तो इन लोगों को देना चाहिए। और सबके सब लोग, हम लोग भी जो सुझाव दे रहे हैं, ये अपने इतने बड़े हमारे जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव एक्सपीरियंस है उसको पीछे रख करके हम लोगों के सुझाव आ रहे हैं। हम लोग कोई एकदम से ऐसे सुझाव नहीं दे रहे, और सब डुएबल, वर्केबल लोगों के हितों को ध्यान में रख करके, खासतौर पे गरीब लोगों के हितों में ध्यान रख करके सुझाव दिए जा रहे हैं।
Thank you, sir. Next question, Rakesh Kapoor ji wants to ask. राकेश जी आगे।
जयराम जी कुछ ऐड करना चाहेंगे इस पे सर?
जरा Rakesh ji, you are not there. Niyamika, please come in. Niyamika from
No,
ET
I am here very much, Mr. Pranav.
please go ahead, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sir, my question is to Mr. Chidambaram. I have read your tweet also, sir. And in this press conference, you have raised some pertinent points. And the most pertinent point, according to me, how can an elected government differentiate with other elected governments by virtue of differentiating between the people of the country, between the countryman and the most deserving person, so far vaccination is concerned, the person who is below the poverty line or at the cusp of this line. So you are depriving their rightful vaccination by announcing such policy and keeping at par with the state governments with the open market. That is my question.
We entirely agree with you. Please write or broadcast your statement. And if you are a newspaper, please ask your editor to write an editorial on these lines. We entirely agree with your statement.
No, my point is that it is the point of constitutional property, constitutional morality also, sir. You are constitutional expert of the country. You know better than me. You know better than rest of the persons.
No, we agree with you. We agree with you when you allow 29 states and private producers who are unequally placed to bid for vaccines. You are discriminating. In fact, many states will lose out on the bidding. They will not get any vaccines. I sincerely hope that the chief ministers will ponder over the modified vaccine policy announced yesterday, will consider the statement that we are issuing today, and we will make sure that this statement is sent to the state governments also, to the chief secretaries. And they will consider and they will raise the issue of discrimination between relatively well-to-do states and the relatively poorer and the smaller states. There is clear discrimination here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Niyamika, please come in now.
Sir, my question is on another issue. As we are witnessing once again a mass exodus of migrant workers from the national capital to their native places. Sir, why is it happening once again? Because last year also we have seen a similar kind of situation. Do you believe that there is some kind of trust deficit with the government, and as suggested by the Congress party, if the state governments will give money in the hands of these people, do you believe these states are in a situation to do so because they are already under the financial burden due to COVID crisis? So what kind of suggestions do you want to make to the central government as well as to the state governments?
Does Jairam wish to answer the question? Jairam?
Unmute yourself.
Sorry, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. I'll answer.
No, please answer the question.
Sorry, sir. Can you repeat the question, please?
Niyamika?
Sure, sir. Sir, my question is that we are once again witnessing a mass exodus of migrant laborers from the national capital. A similar kind of situation was happened last year as well. Do you believe that there is some kind of trust deficit with the government? And as suggested by the Congress party, do you believe that state governments are in a position right now to provide money in the hands of these people, because the states are already under the financial burden due to corona crisis? So what kind of suggestions do you want to make to the central government as well as to the state governments?
I think one suggestion that has been made by the Congress president, a suggestion that has been made by the former Congress president, in fact, it's the only suggestion that is of relevance in today's context, which is a monthly income transfer of 6,000 rupees to the account of every eligible citizen. See, there is the economic situation is not getting any better. The states are under severe financial stress. The central government has PM cares. Nobody knows what is happening to that money in PM cares. Almost 30,000 crores is being spent on Central Vista, but there is no money for the center to share with the state governments. So I think to expect that the state governments are going to be able to come forward with financial assistance, as Mr. Chidambaram has mentioned and as Ajay Makan has mentioned, is very unrealistic. They're not going to be in a position to bear the financial burden. So I think the central government's fundamental responsibility is to ensure that the livelihoods are not threatened any more than they are. And a monthly income transfer of 6,000 rupees, as has been said by the Congress president and the former Congress president, they have written to the Prime Minister, but there has been thundering silence on the part of the Prime Minister. So that's the only thing I can say at this stage, that the migrant labor issue has started becoming very serious yet again. And I think the way the vaccination policy was announced yesterday is going to aggravate the situation for the migrant labor, particularly amongst the younger age groups.
धन्यवाद सर. माकन सर, आप कुछ ऐड करना चाहेंगे, क्योंकि दिल्ली की सीमा पर बहुत भीड़ दिख रही है.
देखिए, दिल्ली के अंदर कल जिस तरीके से लॉकडाउन करा गया, तो पिछली बार से हम लोगों को सीख लेनी चाहिए थी. सबसे महत्वपूर्ण, पिछली बार भी हम लोगों ने देखा कि दिल्ली की सीमाओं में और प्रवासी मजदूर जब वापस जाने शुरू कर देते हैं, इन्होंने प्रश्न पूछा था ट्रस्ट डेफिसिट का. तो ये बिल्कुल ट्रस्ट डेफिसिट भी ये बताता है कि सरकार के प्रति दोनों के, और दिल्ली राष्ट्र की राजधानी है, तो यहाँ पर दिल्ली सरकार और केंद्र सरकार दोनों बराबर की जिम्मेवार है. और यहाँ पर ट्रस्ट डेफिसिट है क्योंकि उनको खाना ठीक तरीके से उनको नहीं दिया गया, और उनके अकाउंट्स में जो शहरी गरीब है, अर्बन पुअर, उन लोगों के अकाउंट के अंदर खास तौर के ऊपर जो हमारी माइग्रेंट लेबर है, जो हमारी रेहड़ी पट्टी लगाते हैं, स्ट्रीट वेंडर्स हैं, ये कैटेगरी, हमारे जो डोमेस्टिक वर्कर्स हैं, घरों में जो हमारे काम करते हैं, क्योंकि इन सब लोगों का काम बंद हो गया है. तो इन लोगों को आइडेंटिफाई, पिछली बार तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा, तो इन लोगों से आइडेंटिफाई भी नहीं हुए कि कौन से बेनिफिशियरीज हैं, और आइडेंटिफाई भी नहीं कर पाए कि शहरी गरीब कौन से. तो उनको कम से कम पिछली बार से सीख लेते हुए इस वक्त सबसे पहले ऐसे लोगों के अकाउंट में पैसे जमा कराने चाहिए थे. हम लोग लगातार 6,000 रुपए प्रति माह की मांग कर रहे हैं, और साथ साथ में अगर पहले से अंदाजा होना चाहिए था तो वापस जाने के लिए इन लोगों की इंतजामात कराने चाहिए थे, और इनको भरोसा दिलाना चाहिए था कि अगर इन्होंने वापस भी जाना है तो उसका पूरा इंतजाम, रख रखाव, देख रखाव पूरा का पूरा राज्य और केंद्र सरकारें मिलकर के करेंगी. तो ये ट्रस्ट डेफिसिट और राज्य और केंद्र सरकार दिल्ली के अंदर खास तौर पे दोनों के द्वारा अकर्मण्यता एक कारण है, जो कि आज दोबारा से हम लोग इतने बॉर्डर्स में फिर से वो भीड़ देख रहे हैं.
धन्यवाद सर. अगला सवाल संजीव चोपड़ा जी from PTI. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you, Pranav ji. Mr. Chidambaram, I just wanted to know that as per the liberalized vaccine policy announced yesterday, the manufacturers would transparently make an advance declaration of the price for 50% supply that would be available to state governments and in the open market before May 1. So, since private vaccination providers shall transparently declare their self-set vaccination price in advance before the launch of the vaccine for state governments. So how does the bidding process come in? Where does, can you explain this?
Firstly, how will that price be fixed? There are two manufacturers in India. Will they collude with each other and fix the price, or will they invite bids before they fix the price? How will they fix the price? First question. We'll assume that without bidding, they will fix the price, or after some kind of negotiation, they'll fix the price. But there has to be bidding for quantities. How will they bid for quantities? How will they allocate between state A and state B? What is the transparent formula for allocation? Therefore, I think it is very, very simplistic to say they will announce a price. First question is, how will they fix the price? There are only two manufacturers. Will they collude with each other? That would be an anti-competitive practice, number one. And number two, even if they do private negotiations and fix a price, how will they allocate without some kind of a bidding?
Sanjeev, can I just come in and respond to?
Yeah, please do.
This is a government that believes in one nation, one tax, one nation, one election. But this is a government that does not believe in one nation, one price. You're going to have multiple prices. Central government price, state government price, private hospital price, some black market price. Why can't we have, and I think this is a legitimate demand, one nation, one price. The same price that the central government is buying at, the state governments should be buying at. Why are you discriminating? Remember, 50% is already being taken by the central government. The balance 50%, as Mr. Chidambaram explained, is to be shared between the states and private hospitals. This is very unfair. This is inequitable. We want the states to get greater responsibility, but this is actually not giving the states any responsibility. So one nation, one price. We cannot have one nation, multiple price.
Thank you.
Jairam sir, please repeat this formulation in Hindi also. One nation, one price. एक राष्ट्र एक कीमत.
देखिए, ये सरकार बार बार कहती है, एक देश एक टैक्स, एक देश एक चुनाव, और अब हमारे सामने देखने को मिल रहा है कल के ऐलान से, कल की घोषणा से, कि एक देश कई मूल्य, दाम अलग अलग, केंद्र सरकार के लिए एक दाम, राज्य सरकारों के लिए एक दाम, निजी अस्पतालों के लिए दूसरा तीसरा दाम, और जो ब्लैक मार्केट है वहां एक चौथा दाम होगा. तो अगर आप वैक्सीन खरीदेंगे, वैक्सीन बेचेंगे, एक ही दाम पर बेचना चाहिए. एक देश एक दाम.
Thank you, sir. I'll move to the next one. Sandeep Fukan from The Hindu. Please come in.
Yeah, so my question is, Jairam can also take it, or Mr. Chidambaram. I think Jairam mentioned about PM Cares, and now that states are at the forefront of the vaccination policy or will be at the forefront of the vaccination policy after 1st of May, does the Congress think that the PM Cares fund, whatever the center has collected, they should now be devolved to the states so that they can effectively carry out the vaccination process in a quicker time?
Well, I've already mentioned, and I'm sure Mr. Chidambaram, knows about this much more than all of us. The states are in a very precarious financial position. Their GST compensation is being delayed. So, to expect that the states are going to be in a position to bear additional financial burdens over and above what they are bearing. And clearly, this vaccine, yesterday's policy is going to put a huge financial responsibility on an already overstretched state governments. So under these circumstances, yes, we don't know about PM Cares. It's a very opaque, non-transparent, fund that has been set up. Whatever money has been collected should be shared with the states, and totally infructuous expenditures, like on the Central Vista project, should be postponed till at such a time that at least the first round of vaccination, universal vaccination, is completed. Today, the most urgent priority for the government is to find the resources to ensure vaccination for all at reasonable prices. At reasonable prices means, of course, for the frontline workers and for the eligible citizens, that it has to continue the way it is continuing today. This is misplaced priorities as far as the central government is concerned. And it, as Ajay has said, it has abdicated its responsibility completely. It's running away from the responsibility. And at this point of time, to believe in market forces for vaccine distribution, I think is a cruel joke on the people of India.
Thank you, sir. I'll move to the next question. Sandeep Swarnkar from the Vartman. Sandeep, please ask.
Thank you, Pranodji. Good afternoon. Here is a question to Mr. Chidambaram. In the name of liberalized policy, Central leaves to states 50% responsibility to vaccinate their people. Is there any plan to free vaccination 18 plus to in Congress ruled states?
What is the last part? Is there a plan to what?
Is there any plan to free vaccinate to 18 plus in Congress ruled states?
See, obviously, since the modified policy was announced yesterday, we must give time to the chief ministers of the Congress ruled states to consider their financial position and consult their cabinet colleagues before taking a decision. This is not a decision which is taken by the central office of the party and imposed upon the state governments. State governments are legal, elected state governments. They should have the freedom to consult.
Your voice is cracking, the last part of your voice.
For states, how they will implement this policy in their states, we should allow them some time to reflect and come to a decision about free pricing or charging a nominal price.
And may I ask a little second question?
Go ahead.
There are other people. Okay, she wants to answer. Please go ahead.
Okay. In this situation, the shortage of beds in the states, government hospitals, private hospitals, shortage of vaccine, short vaccine doses, shortage of oxygen, etc., etc. So, what should government of India should do in this situation? What is your suggestion?
Well, the government of India ought to have done this over the last year. They should not have taken their eye off the ball. For the last 4 to 6 months, the government has virtually done nothing. In fact, the Prime Minister claimed on April 17, we won the war against Corona last year and we will win the war this year. Which war did they win last year? Was Corona defeated last year? So I think the central government should keep its eye on the ball, consult the state governments, and address state-specific requests. One state may want more hospital beds, one state may want more ventilators, one state may want more oxygen cylinders. So you have to address state-specific requests. But this government simply took its eye off the ball and in the last 3 months has done nothing but campaigning.
Thank you very much.
They should have never have let down the vigil of adding every day to the health infrastructure facility. Let me be bold to say, in the last 3 months, the central government has added practically nothing to the existing health infrastructure.
Thank you, sir. There's a request from Samya. Please come in, Samya. Samya, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. 1 minute.
Please go ahead.
She may have muted.
Sir, I just wanted to ask you, it's about Bengal elections are still going on over here. The last 3 phases of Bengal elections are still there. Now, there are reports that 2 of Congress's candidates from the area of Murshidabad succumbed to COVID recently. And that's the reason why the Election Commission has been asked to order a re-election. While there has been a demand from TMC, Congress, CPIM and AIM to carry out the elections after Eid, after Ramzan, but the Election Commission has ordered it now on 13th itself. My second question to you will be on a Punjab Kisan rally that has been allowed by Congress, where no COVID protocol was being followed, sir. Should the COVID protocol of not holding any large gatherings be applicable to Kisan agitation also, only right now when the COVID peak is being witnessed in the country?
Party's position is that the COVID protocol should be followed everywhere. That's the broad policy. In line with that policy, Mr. Rahul Gandhi cancelled his rallies in Bengal. But I don't know the circumstances under which the farmers' rally took place, whether it was too late to call it off. I don't know the circumstances. But the broad approach is COVID protocol should be followed and large gatherings should be avoided.
Okay. The next request is from a friend from HT. Please go ahead. I can't get your initials.
It's Shaubhadra. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, can you hear me?
Shaubhadra.
Am I audible?
Yeah, please come. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. My question is to Mr. Chidambaram. Mr. Chidambaram, you spoke at length about the financial burden on the states, which will come because of the government's modified vaccination policy. Now, at the center also doesn't give free vaccines to all. It has a system where the government hospitals provide vaccines for free, whereas in private institutions, we have to pay a certain price. So it's a case of cross-subsidization. Is this formula of cross-subsidization, can the states not also adopt such a formula?
We have no problem with that. We have no problem with private hospitals charging a prefixed rate and public hospitals giving free vaccination. We have no problem with that. Question is, when the 18 to 45 age group go to public hospital and ask for vaccination, there is a cost to the vaccination. Who will bear that cost? The central government has abdicated its responsibility by saying, our program will continue for 45 plus. So who will bear the cost of 18 to 45 age group? That is the question we are raising. Has the central government passed the buck to the state governments? Will the central government not share that burden? Will you throw the entire burden upon state governments? That question must be answered central government.
Is that answered, Shaubhadra?
I think I've answered your question. We can move on to the next one.
Sir, can I just add to what you have
Yes,
just said?
please.
Response to what Shaubhadra has asked. Well, he's right. Shaubhadra is right in saying that private hospitals charge 250 rupees. But please remember that part of the 250 is retained by the hospital and part of the 250 is passed on back to the central government. So it's not as if the entire 250 is retained by the private hospital. A part of the 250, if I remember right, 100 rupees or so is retained by the private hospital, and 150 rupees comes back to the central government.
Yes, yes, you're right, Jairam.
So please, let's, if that is the formula, but that's not, there is no clarity on that in yesterday's statement. It is today, the policy on private hospitals is 250 rupees, 100 to be retained by the private hospital, 150 to come back to the central government.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Saubhadro. I think Chidambaram ji's video is off. Yeah, he's there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's on, it's on.
the last question, and this was the first question which I asked you. This has come from Rajiv Sardesai. He's asking, what would Congress have done differently than Mr. Modi in tackling the second wave?
Well, this requires a lecture, not an answer.
Sir.
He's asking us to assume we are in government. We have clearly in the CWC resolution pointed out to 14 failures. These are massive failures, grave failures. Firstly, we would have avoided failures. So we would have a high council of central ministers, state ministers or chief ministers, where all decisions will be taken. It can't be a one-person decision-making system as it is today. And thirdly, we would have constantly consulted the state governments about sharing the financial burden. There's nothing free. Everything has a cost. Question is, who will bear the cost? And finally, and most important, we would have provided 6,000 rupees per poor family per month until they tide over the pandemic crisis. And if necessary, we would have borrowed. Every distinguished, world-renowned Indian economist, and I'm leaving out the non-Indian economists, everyone has said, borrow and spend. This government is not willing to borrow, not willing to spend, yet it is showing a huge fiscal deficit. They're completely misplaced priorities. You borrow and spend to tackle the gravest health emergency and crisis faced by this country since independence.
Mr. Chidambaram, would you recommend to state governments, in particular opposition rule, where you're sending the statement to move the Supreme Court? Or have you given up the Supreme Court against this liberalized vaccine policy which goes against state interests?
The policy is barely 24 hours old, and we are responding responsibly in a constructive manner so that further changes can be made. We are gratified that some changes were made after Dr. Manmohan Singh's letter, but we have pointed out 5 specific deficiencies. Let's see the government's response. I don't think it's right to rush to the Supreme Court the day after a policy is announced. We need to first engage with the government, which what we are doing. Even if they are not willing to engage with us, we are willing to engage with them.
Sir, Jairamji wanted to add something to the previous part.
I just want to add one thing. This question of vaccine manufacturing facilities in India keeps coming up over and over again. I do want to say that the fact that India became the world's largest producer of vaccines is not since 2014. It goes back much earlier than that. The fact that India became a major pharmaceutical producer and exporter was on account of the fact that we had a Patents Act in 1970, which allowed for Indian companies to emerge, Indian enterprises to emerge. And by the mid-90s, the Indian pharmaceutical industry had become a global player. And then vaccine production started. Even Bharat Biotech, which has developed the co-vaccine, the Bharat Biotech is a creation of the Technology Development Board that was established in the mid-90s. and the Department of Biotechnology that was established in 1986. So, the fact that we are today a major vaccine producer, in fact, the world's largest vaccine producer, is a direct consequence of the policies that have been followed since the mid-80s. In fact, some of these policies go back to the 1970s, as I mentioned to you, the Patents Act. And I think the single most important recommendation in Dr. Manmohan Singh's letter, which has not got the attention of the government, which Ajay Markan has stressed, and I would like to stress that in the absence of compulsory licensing, you are not going to be able to expand the universe of vaccine producers in this country. We need more vaccine producers, and compulsory licensing is the only way to move forward. Now, Mr. Modi is very fond of Israel, for all the wrong reasons perhaps, but he's very fond of Israel. Now, Israel is one country that has used compulsory licensing in the COVID area. So I don't see any reason, and I support what Ajay has said, that this recommendation in Dr. Manmohan Singh's letter it needs to be acted upon very, very urgently.
Thank you, sir. Now we have come to the end of the questions. You all have replied so satisfactorily that there are no more questions. Chidambaram sir, with your permission, can we wind it up?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jairam sir.
Thank you. Thank you, friends. Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.